So, what are the main differences between Ableton and, say, another DAW that you may be more used to using, like Logic or Pro Tools? Session and arrangement view is the main difference, okay? So at the moment, up until now, we've been looking at Ableton in session view, and that may appear alien to you. Not many, if you use Fruity Loops or FL Studio, then maybe you'll have seen something similar. If you haven't and you're used to using Pro Tools or Logic, then this may not look like anything you've encountered before. You can switch to the arrangement view, which will be more familiar to you, by using these buttons in the top right hand corner, and you can see it basically, they visually represent the orientation of the tracks, either horizontally or vertically, so you can just click one of those to switch between the two, or you can just use the tab button, right? And now things may start to look a bit more familiar to you all. So we have our different tracks, and we have time moving from left to right. We can see the bar count along the top, and we can see minutes and seconds along the bottom. We have our master channel down at the very bottom, and we have return tracks down here, and then all of our other tracks here. So you can access things in the same way in this bottom rectangle, the instrument and effect view, and the MIDI clip and audio clip view in exactly the same way. If I click on a track, it will show me what instruments or effects are in that track. If I double click on a MIDI clip, it will show me the contents of that and the piano roll. And if I double click on an audio clip, it will show me the contents of that. And Shift and Tab works the same way to switch between the two views of instruments and effects and either MIDI or audio clips. Yeah. So you can expand and collapse tracks using the arrow keys. It's the same for the master track and the return track, as you can see that I'm demonstrating here. That's all perfectly familiar, right? I'm sure nobody has any kind of confusion about what's going on there. Does anybody have any questions about arrangement view at all and the way that it's laid out? No? Okay, so session view. This is where it gets a bit different. Now, session view, if you look at the colours of the tracks, you'll notice that the tracks are oriented here vertically in rows, yeah? So track 1 is at the top, track 8, which is an empty MIDI track, is at the bottom. If we look in the session view, track 1 is at the left, track 8 is at the right, yeah? So these are all just individual tracks. You can think of this as being kind of like the mix console or the mix window as well in Logic or Pro Tools, because obviously you can't see the mix controls in as fine a detail in the arrangement view as you can in the session view, although you can see them over here. You just have much kind of, you know, it's not as detailed a view. But the difference here is you can play any clip at you can play one clip at a time, right, in session view, in any track, in any given track. So you can play multiple clips from multiple tracks, but you can't play two clips at once in the same track. Now, some people I've come across kind of find this confusing because they see all these MIDI clips oriented vertically and they think, why can't I play this one with this one? The way to think about this is, if we go back here and we have this pink audio clip here, right? And I have this red audio clip here, which is this kind of tambourine sample. So I've got the pink one, which is this drum loop, and then I've got this tambourine loop, right? Now, I can't play them both at the same time. I can only play one at one time. The same thing is true of a traditional DAW. If we look at it in arrangement view, then I can play the drum loop, but I can't, you know, if I want to play the tambourine loop, then I would have to copy it from the session view and paste it into the arrangement view and paste it over the top of the drum loop, right? So I can't play two things at once in the same track. And the same thing is true in session view. Now, you can orchestrate things from different points in different tracks. So if I just make sure nothing else is playing, I could, for instance, launch a clip using the clip launch button, which is the little play button to the left here. And I could use this kind of chord progression sample that I've just dropped in here, right? If I unsolo this, we can hear this. I'll just turn this off a second. Now I can, we'll just wait a minute for the fire alarm. Okay, so I've got this audio clip playing. You can see, you know, you have clips and they can be organised in any way. I can decide I want to play this drum loop from up here, yeah? And then I could decide I want to play this bass line from down here. Yeah? So you can play any clip from any point in the session view with any other. You can just only play one at a time in each track, right? Another important thing to note is that anything that happens in the session view overrides what happens in the arrangement view. So if I stop all those clips, you can see that I've recorded in this little arrangement in the arrangement view. So we start off with this drum loop. Okay, everybody can hear that. If I just get it to start there at that point instead, you'll notice we have in this pink track, track 2, we have this drum loop and we also have this red tambourine loop that we talked about before. If I press play on the red tambourine loop, because it exists in the same track as the drum loop, it will override what is happening in the arrangement view, okay? And you can see the track in the arrangement view becomes greyed out, yeah? So we're no longer hearing what is recorded in the arrangement view in that specific track. I could do it with another track, so I could say, stop it again, and then maybe I want to play this white clip in this track with the black drum loops, yeah? If I press that, then we will no longer hear what's in track 3 in arrangement view either. If you want to go back to arrangement view and override what is happening in session view, it is not enough to just press stop on those clips. Now, there are clip stop buttons that you can use to stop a clip from playing. So, unless a track is armed to record, which that now is, every empty clip slot contains a clip stop button. Yeah? There is also a clip stop button at the bottom of every single track here, which you can press to stop a clip. And there is also a clip stop button in the master channel that you can use to stop all clips. And you can see when I press that, all the stop buttons are flashing in that track. Yeah. If you arm a track, then all the empty clips then have record buttons in them. And if you press one of those, it will start recording a new clip. And we're going to talk about recording in a second, so I'm going to come back to that. But anyway, what I was saying is, stopping a clip in session view is not enough to go back to what is happening in arrangement view. In order to go back to what is happening in arrangement view, even if you stopped the clip in that track, you have to use one of the back to arrangement buttons, okay? Now you have ones for individual tracks, and when a track is greyed out because you played something in the session view, you will see this button over at the right hand side here on every single track that has had something in session view play in it. And if I press that, then it will reactivate the arrangement view of that track. Alternatively, anytime you press anything or play any clip in session view, you will see this orange button appear at the top, and you can see that in both the master track at the bottom here, in session view, and at the top in arrangement view here. And that's just the kind of overarching back to arrangement view. So if I press that, then it resets the whole thing back to arrangement, yeah? And it will stop any clips that are playing, and it will start playing everything that is happening in arrangement view again. So, is this making sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions yet? No? Yeah? If you have any questions, go ahead. No? Okay, so you'll have noticed before that I copied and pasted a clip between session and arrangement view. You can do that. You can go either way. So I could copy a clip from session view into arrangement view, and I can copy a clip from arrangement view into session view. There is no kind of limitation on that. It's all the kind of same. What have we got to do next? If we jump back to the notes, we've talked about creating tracks. If you want to create a MIDI track, then you have to press Command and Shift and T rather than Command T. We've talked about back to arrangement. So now we want to play and record something in Ableton. Yeah, we're not going to use any audio here. We're not going to do recording audio because whilst we do have available inputs on these audio interfaces, we don't have an electric guitar or a microphone or anything. So instead, we're going to record some MIDI notes in a MIDI track, right? So what I want you all to do is to create a MIDI track, which you can do by pressing Command, Shift, and T. And when you do that, you'll need to decide what to put in it. So you can go to the sound section in the browser, and you can choose a category of sound that you like. I'm just going to choose, say, pad, and you can preview it and find something you like. That will do for me. I'm going to drag and drop it in. You can also double click on something, and whatever track you have selected, it will put it into that track. And then you'll notice as soon as you drag an instrument into your MIDI track, it will already be armed. Now I'm just using the MIDI key, the QWERTY keyboard on my computer here, but you should be able to play MIDI notes in with your MIDI keyboard. If you want to use the QWERTY keyboard to play notes, then you can just press this button up here in the top right hand corner, which looks like a little keyboard, and that will allow you to play notes with the QWERTY keyboard, right? Okay, so recording something. This is where things start to diverge a bit from what you may be used to, again, in Pro Tools and in Logic. So, by virtue of the fact that we have session view and we have arrangement view, we also have two record buttons. We have session record and we have arrangement record. Now, they both just record things, they just record things in one display or another, okay? So, now the session record button allows you to record in session view. So, the session record button is up here. If you want to record something in session view as opposed to writing it in with the piano roll, then you can use session record, which is up here. You still have to have your track armed, and what that will do is this hollow circle as opposed to the solid circle. It basically, whatever clip slot you have selected in the track that you have armed, when you press session record, it will start recording a clip in that slot here. Okay, so there you go, you've recorded something in session view. Alternatively, you can just hit the record button in an empty clip slot and it will start recording as well. Yeah, really straightforward. So, one other thing we need to talk about session view and about arrangement record as well is global quantization. Now, because Ableton is designed in part as a live performance tool, there is this global quantization setting up here next to the metronome. Now, this has nothing to do with the quantization of notes that you play in or record. This defines the quantization of the playback of clips, okay? So, if I set it to a bar, then when I press a clip, unless the transport isn't running, it will start playing that clip at the beginning of the next bar, not in one bar's time, okay? So if I press play with nothing playing and then I press on this drum loop, it will start playing at the beginning of the next bar, right? And you can see it's counting in. And the same thing applies when you stop clips. Yeah? So in this way you can orchestrate clips in time. Yeah? If I want to record something, that's all governed by the same thing. So what I could do is I can hit the record button in an empty clip slot, record a chord pattern, and then hit the clip launch button, the little play button at the left-hand side of the clip, before I've finished playing the notes, or before the end of my last bar, and then it will automatically start looping what I've just recorded, okay? So I can go... Yeah? And And then in that way you can start to orchestrate things. So I'm going to go back to stuff that I've kind of pre-recorded and have a play around with some things, and I'll show you one of the major advantages of this workflow. So you'll be used to, if you're used to working in Pro Tools or Logic, you'll be used to building things up in a linear fashion and recording something, you know, with a metronome. Well, obviously we're recording with a metronome here, but you'll be recording something in the arrangement view, and then you'll be copying and pasting it and duplicating it over it, you know, with a mouse, and you'll be dropping a recording of something else in at another point in time. What you can do, the arrangement record button doesn't only serve to record any tracks that are armed and the notes that you play or the audio signal coming into that track in the arrangement view. The arrangement record button also serves to record into the arrangement view any active clips in any track, regardless of whether that track is armed or not. So what you can do then is you can basically improvise with your clips and loops to play something and create the structure of your song in real time, and it will record that and capture it in the arrangement view. And a really useful tool for this, you'll see the way that I've organised these clips. I have them in kind of rows at different kind of sections when I want to introduce new elements, yeah? And you can launch scenes in Ableton. So if you look in the master track, you'll see that you have these play buttons that run down the different rows. And basically these are called scenes, these rows of clips. And if you trigger one of these, it will trigger all clips in that row at the next kind of quantization point. So if I hit arrangement record, and I can start playing the first clip, and then I can start to build up an idea, yeah? And then when I'm ready, I can stop all the clips using this master clip stop button, and then I can look in my arrangement view, and this is the stuff that I already had, and this is what I've recorded from this point. So I have the structure of my song in arrangement view, yeah? And now, because whatever happens in session view overrides what happens in arrangement view, it also means that if you have an existing song structure and you want to audition a new part, a new clip with a different section of your track, then you can do that by just triggering that clip in session view, and then you can hear what that sounds like in that section of your track, yeah? And I can go back to arrangement. So it's quite useful as a kind of workflow tool. Does anybody have any questions about any of this yet, or is it all fairly self-explanatory? Is it all making sense? Yeah? Okay, so what I want you to do now then is take 5-10 minutes and start just building up a track in Ableton using MIDI instruments, using samples and clips and loops, anything you like, just to start creating the basic structure of something. And then we're going to build on what we did earlier in the session with VC VRAC and start talking about arpeggiators and step sequences and thing in Ableton Live. So I'll come around and give any of you a hand who need it whilst you're getting the beginnings of your tracks going. Nice.